Yo, I decided to upload my UU Open games and possibly all of Grand Slam and do all of the Opens, but definitely UU, assuming people watch this video, because I do play UU and that's definitely where most of my experience comes from. I'm playing Finchinator, who does not play UU, but is a very good tournament player, and so I do know what he's doing. I'm definitely not going to sleep on my opponent, because I definitely know that he knows how to play and he definitely has a good team here. So I'm not going to expect nothing from him. So from team matchup, I think I have a pretty bad team matchup. The team I'm using is Celebi, Choice Spinner Crocodile, Mixed Defense, Diancie, Spedef Fortress, Adamant Beedrill. I sometimes use Jolly, but this one's Adamant. And CM Roar Suicune, which is good with Spike Stack, and Heal Bell. So it definitely works well with Suicune. Here, this is definitely Choice Banded. Crocodile, I can tell it matchup. I'm assuming this is Choice Spec Sylveon, just based off how they're the first two Pokemon on his team, because Choice Spinner Crocodile, Choice Spec Sylveon is, is a very good core. Burp, sorry. So that's a very good core, and then he decides to go with a Trapper. Like, the whole team makes sense here, and that's definitely Stealth Arc Nidoqueen, just regular Scald, Ice Beam, Haze, Recover Melodic, and either Hone Claws or Pursuit Aerodactyl. I'm hoping it's Hone Claws. Pursuit would be a pretty big issue to trap both Celebi and Beedrill, which I definitely need to win the game. Crocodile is very annoying to both of our teams, and Nidoqueen's also annoying because my ground resist is indeed Celebi, and both of these Pokemon hit Celebi hard, so it's definitely one of the weaknesses. But I decided to lead with Choice Band and Crocodile, as it does very well. It can essentially stand versus these five, and he decides to he makes a good choice going to his Crocodile to stop me from doing that, as well as he threatens almost every single one of my Pokemon as well. Here, most run Superpower. They can run Stone Edge. In hindsight, Suicune was a good play here. I definitely disagree with what I did here, because it was definitely a 50-50 gamble. After Intimidate, Superpower does not OHKO. It almost OHKOs, but after the defense drop, it will. So the person that loses the speed tie, it has the advantage. I decided to go for it. We'll see what happens, but Suicune is definitely the more safe play, and then I can double out back in a Crocodile and threaten something from there. I wouldn't want to go out into Diancie, or these two I kind of need healthy, just in case he has Stone Edge and he decides to just go straight for the Earthquake, so it's definitely not worth that, although it would have worked as we both end up going for Superpower. I win the speed tie, I do not OHKO, and he reveals the Superpower and OHKOs me, so that's definitely a terrible start for me. I definitely should have played that better, but what can you do? Although, the bright side is he does die to Stealth Rock. He does not have any hazard removal, and this is good, as I do have Spikes. He does have a Trapper, though, in his Magneton. This is a perfect time to lay up Stealth Rock. His Crocodile is dead, but this beast is in. I have essentially no switch in. Suicune's basically the only thing that can live 2 hits. Everything else will die in 2 hits. I was also scared to go for Sludge Wave, so I could not go out into Celebi, as well as I need Celebi basically to pressure his Milotic, which could otherwise wall my entire team. Assuming, well, not as much Beedrill, but a Skull Burn could pretty much end it for him. End it for me. So I go out into my Suicune. It does a lot. He does not go for Stealth Rock. Here I think he should have stayed in, gone for Sludge Wave, as I Scald, do about 60, and then him end up killing my Suicune, which opens up his Aerodactyl, as well as it just Suicune's was a very big threat to his team. That's definitely what he should have done, but instead he decides to switch out. I don't know if he's running a very low amount of speed. I do have enough speed for Spec Sylveon, so I can Calm Mind on it, or at least Revenge Kill it in some way. If it's at a low amount of HP, he decides to sack Crocodile, which is great for me. I get leftovers, so my Suicune is definitely still in the game. he comes back in with Magneton. Diancie's pretty much useless. I know he's going for Volt Switch here. My Volt Switch in died, and I need Celebi at a decent amount of HP, so I just basically sack my Diancie. I know he's not going for Flash Cannon, although this does let him bring in his Nidoqueen. I probably would have went for Stealth Rock here, as he kills my Diancie, which is good for me, because if I stay and I go for like Moonblast, I'm assuming, and that basically does nothing. He essentially would have had Stealth Rock and and kill me with Earth Power the next turn. But I could see why he would go for Earth Power, as he essentially, well, it's not essentially, he does get a kill with Nidoqueen, but it was not in my best interest to switch. Diancie was definitely the most expendable member on my team. I go out into Beedrill here. He does have the Aerodactyl, which is very annoying, but hopefully he does not have Pursuit. He does not have, I don't know if I said this already, but he does not have a win condition, so Hone Claws does make sense, but Pursuit also does for these two guys. So I go straight for the drill run. It won't kill, but it'll put him in U-turn range. I'm assuming he clicks Stealth Rock or just attacks my Beedrill, assuming it kills. But in my experience, Beedrill typically lives on a sliver of HP, sorry, and that works out. I go straight for the U-turn. He goes out into Milotic. I don't really agree with that play, as it gives me my momentum. I was definitely clicking U-turn, and I was not drill running on a potential. I was not staying in and letting him potentially Pursuit trap me very easily, and then he would probably win the game from there. And I basically have a kill here with Celebi, so I click Nasty Plot as he recovers. He can't switch in here because he'll die to +2 Psychic, and he does not OHKO with Aerial Ace, and everything else. Sylveon would live and attack, but he won't OHKO me, and I do kill him. I think that was his best play, or recovering, but he actually uses Hypnosis, which is like some ADV OU set. That's the only place I've seen it, which is interesting. This does have Natural Cure. I'm not staying in here on a potential Aerodactyl to Pursuit trap me, so I go out into my Fortress expecting a Recover or a Haze. He does show Haze, so he does not have Ice Beam. I know he needs to Recover here, and he's not going out into his Magneton yet, so I take this opportunity to set up a Spike to limit switch-ins to make sure Sylveon does not freely come in on a Celebi or anything. But he ends up Scalding, which is great for me, which I think means he's either going to Magneton here or he's recovering. Either way, I'm Volt Switching. As he does not recover, so is Milotic's at a very low amount of HP. As I get my momentum here and I go out into Beedrill, the only thing that can OHKO. He knows I have Drill Run, he knows it'll kill, but I still do not know if this has Pursuit, and I'm definitely on the back foot here. So I need to go for U-turn, as he does switch out. He knows he needs Magneton, as I end up catching the Milotic and OHKOing it. That was essentially a sack on his part. What's going on? I don't know, it was lagging there. That was weird. But go out into my Suicune to get leftovers, so I'm still able to do something in this game. As he goes out into Magneton. Anything else will die to this Volt Switch. I mean, this will live, but I need this at an HP. It lives essentially any hit. So I go out into my Celebi on the expected Volt Switch. I'm still at an amount of HP where I can do something here. He does, I think 77 is the minimum roll with Aerial Ace, so he can safely Aerial Ace here. If he does have Pursuit, he definitely Pursuits here to get this out of the game. Although maybe not actually, because if I end up Psychicking and then I roar him or something and he can't come back in on Stealth Rock, Beedrill does clean his team up. So actually, I'm wrong. He should Aerial Ace here. And he does, as I go out into Suicune. And I could double switch here or click Roar to face something in, but I go for Scald to see what type of Sylveon it is and maybe catch a Scald Burn. It does confirm to be choice specs, no leftovers, and that did 19, which is not a lot, but it's a lot to a Sylveon. So here I basically sack my fortress. I could, it's a roll. If I can live 2 hits, the leftovers brings me up to, I think when I checked, it did the exact amount. It did 42 point something, and since Showdown's like kind of messed up in rounds with its rounding system, that I would kill, but it's also a roll. You could get a minimum roll. Here I click Volt Switch. Potentially Gyro Ball's the better play to kill his Nidoqueen, but I still don't want his Magneton coming in, and if he does, I can punish that switch in. And him going Nidoqueen isn't exactly the end of the world. He does go out into Nidoqueen, and at this point I need to spam Rapid Spin. He's definitely not going to risk that in case I like crit Rapid Spin. I mean, I might do 4%, but I highly doubt it. So he goes straight for the Earth Power. I just essentially spam Rapid Spin until I die. That's my only play. As I go out into my Beedrill and click U-turn, and I have to go into my Celebi here to get my leftovers recovery. So now Aerial Ace is a 50% chance to kill, assuming he's max attack Jolly. And here I can either live the hit and put him in range of Stealth Rock to the point where I can Scald with Suicune, and Beedrill kills the last 2 Pokemon, assuming I hit Drill Run, even though I could probably even U-turn on it and it'd die at that range of HP. Or I go out into, or he pursuits or double switches. So I say, and if he does Aerial Ace, then I do go Suicune and I do Roar. Since he is at 51%, he does switch into Stealth Rock 2 more times. So I would have to Roar his Aerodactyl out twice to be able to actually win the game, and that the chances of that are just not as likely as the 50% chance of living Aerial Ace or the chance of him doubling into Magneton on my Suicune. So I just click Psychic here so I can put him in range of Stealth Rock so my Beedrill wins the game. As he ends up switching into Magneton, I end up OHKOing, and he comes back out with Aerodactyl. At this point, I believe I'm out of range of Aerial Ace, as he ends up getting, that's like, I think minimum 77, that's like a very minimum roll, but as you could see, I would have lived the Aerial Ace at before leftovers recovery at 83% anyway, so I would have won that game regardless of him staying in or double switching. I don't think he was aware of Celebi's, how bulky Celebi was, and as you can like see here, you could pause it, as I had no HP or anything, so I just Psychic. It doesn't even kill Sylveon's busted, but here I just Poison Jab to end that game. And here is game 2. I'm just going to switch sides because I was on the opposite side. I'm going to reset. So at team matchup, I see that he has Spike Stack plus Sableye, and I have a spin blocker that Sableye can beat because I have Haze, which is way better on stall than Acid Spray. So I could see that being annoying, but Toxic Spikes are equally as annoying for his team. Although I almost don't want to set them up because I want to burn and not poison the Crocodile, because he could potentially Pursuit Trap my Sableye being poisoned, meaning I can't Will-O-Wisp him, meaning Snorlax has a decent chance of beating through these 3 Pokemon. So I'm a little worried of that, but other than that, I think I have a pretty decent matchup. Rotomo's typically very annoying for stall because, or Rotom Heat, just because it can trick anything. Choice Scarf or Specs, and Aerodactyl's obviously not the safest switch-in just in case they Volt Switch. I do not have a ground type. I do have Volt Switch-ins in Blissey, mainly Blissey because this thing's does not have a Spidef stat. It's very frail, especially on the special side, but has a very, very, very good defense. So that's also very annoying. But Tangrowth pretty much knocks his whole team off, and nothing immediately threatens it. My counter to Sableye is Alomomola plus Tangrowth, which can actually deal with it better than you'd imagine with Regenerator, Scald Burning, Leech Seeding, knocking it off, etc. And my Sableye completely demolishes him. His counter is his own Sableye, and I'm pretty damn sure with the amount of speed I have, I'm going out speed. So I think I'm definitely in favor here. I decided to bring full stall, by the way, just because I know he does not play UU. I do not know if he makes his own teams. And someone that does not play UU, and if he did make his own team, it's a lot easier to prepare less for stall than you would if you're a very experienced builder in the tier, as well as the chance that he does not particularly know how to beat UU stall. It's not exactly the same as OU or Passion OU stall, so I think it's a good game 2 team for me just to close out the series. I lead out with Tangrowth, essentially nothing to lose. I do have Protect, a Scout, a Trick if he does lead Rotomo. As he leads Sableye, he switches out. He does not want to get knocked off. He also wants to see what I am. I knock his Snorlax off, which is not a very good switch into Tangrowth, but nothing really is. He body slams. He sees I'm defensive. At this point, I believe I knock off again because I'm assuming he's going to switch out into Fortress, but he ends up going into Rotom Mow or Cut. I don't know, which is actually fantastic for me because I knock off his choice specs on the predicted switch, and that really helps my chances of winning because he cannot trick anything, and I can always switch into Tangrowth on this because I don't even have an item myself. I can't trick him with leftovers because I'm very weak to Absol, +2 it, and these two Pokemon, Sableye and Blissey, give it a free SD. So without an item, it does knock off the 65 base power, and it doesn't do. It is 65 base power, and it's 97.5, I believe, with. So having no items better, as well as it's the same for Crawdon, but I was thinking mainly Absol, but both. It does the job for both. So he can't get leftovers if I keep on switching in Tangrowth. So that's great. I think he realized he kind of fucked up here. I go for Giga Drain. I probably should have knocked off, but it worked out. He went into Snorlax. I expect him to rest, but he body slams, trying to get a Para, which makes sense because this Tangrowth is very annoying and forces me to heal both Blissey. But he lets me get my free Sableye, and I'm definitely clicking Taunt. I do not want him to rest, and I don't want to get all fancy with my Sableye yet. So I end up taunting as he makes the good play in resting, and I have a free Will-O-Wisp. I end up missing. That sucks, but it's not the end of the world. I go out into my Tangrowth as he taunts, hoping he's faster, and here he Will-O-Wisps as he lets me knock him off, which is also great. Here, he's gonna knock off. He's probably wondering what item I have, but as you guys already know, I don't have an item. I Giga Drain. That does a lot, as Sableye is pretty frail. So I'm in a good position here. At this point, my taunt wears off, and I know I can Leech Seed. And at this point, he cannot touch me. I know he's not going to stand. There's like a 0% chance. So I end up expecting him to go into Snorlax as I double switch into my... Not a double switch. I just hard switch into my Sableye. Sorry. As he does go Snorlax, and I click Taunt again, assuming the best play for him is clicking Rest, hoping I choke, and he does do that, so that was a good play on his part. As I once again get a Will-O-Wisp off. He ends up saying that he's 20 speed somewhere around here, but I actually have far more speed than that. He doesn't know that Sableye run a lot of speed creep. It's like basically just for other Sableye, especially on stall when Sableye's a nuisance to stall. So I end up taunting him, and he realizes he has no way to win, and I appreciate it because we don't have to play this whole game, and he forfeits. So that's round 1 of UU Open. I won 2-0. It was a good series. I do admit the series itself was pretty linear. There was nothing to really think about to the point where like you guys can, some of you may benefit from being like inside the mind of me, not to like toot my own horn, but just to get the inside the mind of myself, just to see what I would do in complex situations. But everything was played. I played pretty safe. Well, not safe, but I played linear and like as expected on every turn. Because I felt that was the best chance I had to win, and it ends up working out as I end up winning 2-0. Good games, Finchinator, and I hope to bring my round 2 matches as soon as I play them, and possibly my LC, RU, whatever other opens if I feel up to it. So yeah, peace, guys.